I'm also a supply chain major. I saw there were a couple supply chain majors here. And currently I live in San Francisco. I work at Intuit as a senior program manager on their operations strategy team. And then prior to that, I worked at a bunch of different companies working in different supply chain roles. Before this, I worked at a startup called Rent the Runway. And then before that, I did time at Google, Amazon, and DuPont. But yeah, excited to meet with everybody and hopefully give some good advice and tips.
All right, thanks, Jeff. And up next, we have our other Jeff, Jeff G, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Jeff Genuino, class of 1996. I'm a banker at US Bank, specializing in commercial real estate. Happy to meet everyone. I kind of talk about what I do over the chat, but happy to be on and looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. And now we have Myra Villaluz.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. So Myra Villaluz. At Rutgers, I was Myra Oliver, class of 98. I'm currently at Ralph Lauren, Director of Business Planning. I've been there about 10 years. And prior to that, I was also at Footstar, so another retail company. So it was just interesting that I was a major in marketing with a minor in English, but with on-campus recruiting at Rutgers, Bush campus, in fact, there were just a lot of retailers there, and it struck me as interesting, and I went that route and have been there ever since.
Thank you so much. Now we have Jerome, or Jay Capistrano.
Hi guys, Jerome Capistrano, or Jay Capistrano, class of 2000, I think. So long ago now, I can't remember. My major was financial economics. I currently own 2 businesses, commercial business lending, commercial real estate financing, investments. The other business is business loans, business consulting with the SBA, small business administration, and any kind of business loans. And I'm also, my third hat, really, I'm a licensed financial advisor. I do maximize retirement strategies, investments. So anything with a dollar sign before that, that's my focus. So I'm happy to be here. If there's anything I can do for you guys, any tips or ways to deal with the public or deal with the business side, getting funding, getting all of that. I'm here to help. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jay. And finally, we have Sam Swayan.
Hey everyone, Sam Swayan, class of 1999, Livingston College, bachelor's in economics, minor in psychology. I lead a sales team at Moody's Analytics in the structured finance operating unit for the North American region. I've been there for about 10 years. Prior to that, I had other sales roles at Bloomberg and Reese and Thompson Financial. Very excited to be here. Hoping to share some of my stories and hopefully it'll be insightful for you as you pursue your career in business.
Awesome. So now that we met all of our panelists, let's get on to talking about the objectives for this panel. Essentially really helping to prepare students who want to enter the business world. There's a lot of different industries that are able to go into, and we really want to make sure that we understand how important building those relationships can be in the business world. Next, also gaining perspective on these different industries. What are the main factors that are driving where everybody is today and how it's going to affect in the future? Some really big things like COVID and technology have definitely played a part in it, and we're really excited to be able to take a deeper dive into it. And finally, as we know, this is a RAPS hosted event, so being able to connect our identity to our careers is also really important. So we're going to be discussing how it is being Filipino and being in the workplace. And with that, we're going to start with our first topic. So the power of networking. We're really going to be able to understand what it means to build those relationships and what that can mean for people with a career in business. So for my first question, how has networking impacted your career journey? Whoever wants to start first.
Sure,
I can start.
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead, Myra.
So it's interesting because I wouldn't necessarily say it was networking in the more standard or the kind of textbook way, but I have to say that after my first job out of college, I was at that company for quite some time, and when it was time to move on to the next, it was reaching out to mostly people, friends, and some of them actually who had went to Rutgers with me, even though it was a few years after, and just knowing what industry they were in and reaching out and saying, what are some opportunities? And believe it or not, it was knowing someone who then got me an interview with her vice president. And at the time when I got there, didn't even have a job opening, but took the word of this associate who she respected her opinion, took the time to speak to me, and within that few minutes started reaching out to other people that she knew had openings. And that was how I landed my job at Ralph Lauren, and I got my foot in the door. So it just showed me how important it was to really and how small of a world retail is. So I know a lot of the panelists here are in financial and banking and things like that. So I'm in a little bit of different space, but after you've been in the retail world for a while, you hear everyone say over and over, it's just a small world, because you get to know everyone, or it's 6 degrees of separation. So I think it's definite, whether or not I realized it was actually officially networking or not, it definitely was something that helped me, because it opened the doors that I didn't even realize were possible at the time.
Yep.
I'll,
Thank
I'll,
you. Go
yeah.
ahead.
I'll chime in on that. I definitely started. I started with my career by just telling people who I am and what I want to do, and I found out very quickly that people like working with people they know or people that they like. They don't really care about other people that has so much other resume, but if they know you and they want to do business with you, just like what Myra said, they'll make calls, they'll find a way to work with you. And nowadays I always have a business card, so everywhere I go, I make sure they know what I do, and I just get calls. I get clients left and right. Just today I got 2 calls, and I don't even go out there looking for clients anymore because people know who I am now, and it's networking. In the grand scheme of things, but also individual networking at all times. I would say that.
I'd add on top of that too, that I know when people think about networking, there's sort of an angle of opportunity when it comes to like, oh, your next job but it's also about exposure and information. And, I think especially when you're starting your career early, the importance of networking, not to maybe find a job, but just to understand how the business works or what's going on in it, what people do, all those things are pretty valuable when it comes to, the point when you do have an opportunity. If you can build a network where, maybe there's a topic within that industry that you don't know, everything, you're not going to know everything, especially going in early. The people that you meet are resources for you to be able to find out, like, oh, what's going on in the market for this, or who's working on what, those things as you build your career and build your basically your personal brand will be important, that you can take with you for the rest of your career.
I agree with all of what Myra, Jay, and Jeff said, and just add another layer to that. It's something that you don't stop doing when you get that first job or second job, but it's actually a skill that you evolve, right? Because really the network that you build is ultimately going to be a reflection of how you interact with people. And so how I was networking when I was out of school is a lot different than what it is now, and what it was say 10 years ago. But it's something that you also continue to work on and evolve as you move along in your career.
Really insightful. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, I guess, with Jeffrey G's point around information kind of being the value add in terms of networking, I'd say that was probably more of my experience as well. I'm still relatively new, somewhat new in my career. I've been working for 8-9 years since undergrad. But yeah, I'd say, just through building my network at my past companies or just outside from people I met with at Rutgers, I have people in my network, close friends that are working in, other totally different fields from me. I work in supply chain. I have friends working in, finance or marketing or consulting. And it's nice just having that kind of optionality in terms of if I do want to potentially move into a different field or a different career, I at least have folks in my network that I can lean on in terms of information or even opportunities. So it's not network. I guess the value in terms of networking, kind of like what Jeffrey G was saying, isn't always just with like very concrete, job opportunities or financial opportunities. It could be as simple as something's just an easy source of information, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd like to add to that. Actually, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So networking is not just face to face, especially nowadays. Build up your LinkedIn network. Build up anything that you're in. So in social media, in Instagram or Facebook, always know that people are looking at you. People are seeing what you're doing, what you're all about. So that's who you are, and if they like that, they'll find a way to work with you. So that's number one, social media. Number two, I would definitely suggest that you come up with a I don't know, a 30-second or a minute just pitch or a spill about yourself. I'm Jay. I'm in finance. I was in Wall Street for about 2 or 3 years, and then I was with Bank of America for 11 years. I was an assistant vice president with them. I'm always looking for financial whatever, blah, blah. So within 30 seconds, you're able to capitalize on their time, and they know exactly what you're about. And at the same time, find out what they're about, because people don't just want to hear your story. They want to be heard. So that's the tip I want to tell you guys. Speak up, be bold, and be likable. So listen, and then tell your story in 30 seconds.
Yeah, and just to add also, when I think of networking, it's really, for me, it's about establishing and building those relationships. And the way I see it is you're actually networking within your own company, because in terms of, for me, for retail, or even just doing my job. I work in the position I'm in now, I'm working with so many cross-functional departments that it's networking in and of itself, being able to know who I can go to, or they know who to go to basically get the job done or get the answers you need. And when you build those relationships and you find those peers that are like-minded, and to what Jay was saying before, it's not so much maybe what you know, but that they know you and they like how you work. Those are people that you're going to remember and maintain those relationships, so that when they move on to their next position or company, that's another network and another branch and resource for you as well.
Yeah, really great insights, really good perspectives. I really love to see like how networking really transforms and how applicable it really is. It shows kind of that difference between, what you learn in the classroom and what you have to take in when you go into your career, when you adapt and you develop as a character. So really great insights. And, I also want to ask, how would you advise students to start building and maintaining their network? Because RBS really emphasizes networking nowadays. And, sometimes it tells do 30 cold emails, right? Just send all of them out blindly. Other people say really leverage your neighbors, like who you know personally. So I really want to get your insights on that and how you can even further build that, because sometimes after the first cold call, students don't really know what to do after that initial interaction. How do you keep those relationships moving forward?
I'd probably, I'm not such a fan of the straight cold calling, just kind of finding someone in a book and then just shooting them a message. I think generally these days when people get a ton of emails or a ton of calls, you want to differentiate yourself versus other, inquiries. So when you think about reaching out to someone, you should think about sort of how you fit with them, or if there's, you know, some introductory point. Like I think, you know, it's easy to ignore, you know, all the cold calling, but if you do it in a way that, oh, you know, I attended this networking thing and you were a panelist, like that personalizes it a little bit more. It actually gives the reader or the person you're contacting a better path to responding to you, and try to be concise, because also when you load up on a message, like people's attention span isn't that long. So if you throw like a page email, they're more chance of ignoring it or not responding to you.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyone else wants to give some insights, like even like during your undergrad years, how were you able to create your networks, or like what resources you might have been really useful to you to start building your network?
I would say get involved, volunteer. When I was an undergrad, I like myself and another guy, we started FIC, Filipinos in Christ. We did a lot with them. I'm still very, very close with every single one of them. They're like my brothers and sisters. They all call me Kuya Jerome, and somehow, one way or the other, someone got a job from somebody's, you know, network, and you know, get involved with that. Definitely with RAPS and any other organizations that you guys, any clubs that you guys have an affinity with. I would definitely do that. So, because I truly believe in giving first and then receiving. So the more time that you give, you're actually going to learn a lot from the people that you're going to be with, and then they'll just find that they like you, and maybe, hey, I know someone that's going to be hiring, and would you be interested in a job with, you know, whatever company? So just keep giving first. I would say give of your time as you're learning, and that is your network. That's how I build my network. I'm also find jobs that can get you in front of people. I was a personal trainer for about a year and a half, 2 years, while I was in Rutgers, and I met a lot of people that way as well. You know, just don't be in a cocoon, because you need to. People need to know you, and you need to know people, and that's how you learn.
So I'd say I have maybe more of an informal answer on this. So definitely take it with a grain of salt. I guess I was never what you call textbook networker in undergrad or even after graduating in terms of like cold calling or cold messaging people. I'd say probably just in terms of my own experience, the most valuable people in my network are people that I made friends with either through Rutgers or through past jobs. So I would just say, you know, whether it's at your internships or even at your clubs at Rutgers or future full-time jobs, you know, don't underestimate or undervalue the time that you spend with, you know, coworkers that you may want to become friends with for the rest of your career or for however long. I'd say the most valuable people in your network are going to be people that are willing to give you an opportunity down the line, or subsequently you're willing to help them out either through a job referral or a business opportunity down the line. And I'd say those people in my network that kind of fall into that category, like I said, were people that I became friends with through Rutgers or through past jobs, just because we had either similar interests or similar values. So, you know, there's definitely a great value in, you know, cold messaging or messaging people that are levels above you in terms of trying to get internships or opportunities. But I'd say, you know, the friendships that you make at either your jobs or even at Rutgers are potentially going to be really key pieces of your network down the line as well.
I'll just add, you know, I myself is not a huge fan of the cold call outreach, but I do get impressed when I hear a very targeted and concise message that, you know, the person did some research and really understanding, you know, so either what I did or what have you, and being so targeted in something. Even they did see you at a panel and talked about mention something that you might have said on it. You know, the more you're able to make those connecting points, the more you'll be able to resonate if you're going on, you know, cold calling people. And then, you know, as Jay was saying, yeah, be involved in as many events as possible. It could be, you know, volunteering, being a mentor, you know, playing, you know, after work leagues, you know, in whatever sports you like. Be out there and not just at happy hour. And, you know, you'd be surprised how many people, you know, you can meet.
All right, thank you so much for all of your responses. We're going to move on to our next topic. So we're going to be talking about getting down to business, about the progression in each of your industries. So obviously one of the most impactful things that's happened this year is COVID. So really want to just start off with how has your job or how has your company culture changed because of COVID?
So, I mean, I'm on the sales organization, which is pretty large at Moody's, and clearly, you know, we're very much either on the road traveling or always interacting and having meetings. So it's definitely changed, you know, tremendously. You know, the face-to-face with not only our clients or each other it has been challenging. And I think, you know, this is probably the third, you know, crisis I've been through in my working career, you know, 9/11, the financial crisis of 07, and now COVID. And this was, you know, some of the things that's even happened during COVID, you know, politically and within the country has, you know, made significant changes, I think, for the future of business going forward. But yeah, the companies had to rely on technology, you know, Zoom and for the pretty much indefinite future. We've had some downside on it, but overall, I think you know, we are growing, and I think we're going to come out a lot better of it. You know,
for my business, we definitely had to pivot with the start of COVID, and basically it started with the shutdown of our stores. So I'm in the PFS division, which is Polo Factory stores. So it's all brick and mortar. We don't have an online or e-commerce division. So we immediately had to pivot and start to fast track all of these ideas that we've had previously of how do we expand our business, you know, how do we start to offer different ways to shop within our stores. So we offer now curbside pickup, there's virtual catalogs, there's phone concierge, all these things that just seem to be ideas at a time that we're going to require a few years of work and game plan in the making, suddenly, you know, turned around within a matter of weeks and months. And so that's from a business standpoint. From a culture standpoint, definitely a big shift. Our company was very meeting oriented. Working remotely was not a very popular thing. Most people were in the office the majority of the time. Again, because of meetings and also just informal meetings, so much would happen walking past each other in the hallway or, you know, seeing each other on the stairs. We all now were forced to work remotely. And I think it's been a very good thing, because for Ralph Lauren as a corporation, on paper, they very much tried to offer some flex type of benefits for the associates. But as a culture, we just never really got to that point because of just we were set in our ways. And I think what this has done is shown that we absolutely can be productive and still deliver all the things we need to, even if it's from all the remote places.
Thank you so much. If anyone else wants to add on, maybe we can get another response.
So for me, again, I work for Intuit. We're the creators of the TurboTax software. So I'd say when COVID hit, nothing much changed from a business standpoint. I'd say we got a little bit busier just because less people were going to like personal accountants, and I'd say less people were going to in-person accountants, and more people were using TurboTax. So from a business standpoint, nothing really changed. I'd say from a culture standpoint, I'd say hours did get longer. I feel like just because there's, I guess, less of a delineation between, you know, when the workday ends, just because everybody's working from home. I'd say hours probably got a little bit worse. And I don't know, me personally, I really miss being in the office. I miss interacting with my coworkers on a daily basis. Working in tech, a lot of the value that you get is, you know, from collaborating with your coworkers in different functions. So at least me personally, I think I definitely think work from home is going to be somewhat of a permanent fixture, at least for like the next few years or long term. But at least like in the tech industry, I think some type of hybrid model is going to be probably the future. But yeah, I'd say just from a culture standpoint, just hours probably got longer.
For sure, can totally see that as well. And our other question is, where do you see your sector of business progressing in the next 5 years, especially with the growth and advance of technology as well?
Technology obviously is going to play a huge role, and it already has in business with cloud computing, AI, OCR technology, all these automating technology streams. It's creating tremendous. The rate of speed that's accelerating is tremendous, and I think you'll see a lot of industries move towards consolidating where it was more resource intensive become a lot less. We're already seeing that in the insurance space. You're seeing it in the way that financial firms that even lend money with the peer-to-peer lending, and how it's affected the banking space. But technology is huge, and in my world where we sell software and solutions to these financial institutions, like with anything in the internet or anything, data and content is becoming more and more key, and the amount of information that's being processed these days, it's exponentially greater than it was before. So technology is really changing the way, from when I first started, and there was a Bloomberg terminal, and you had prospectuses and things on paper. We're already light years beyond that, and that acceleration over the next 5 years is going to be even more so. So in the next 5 years, you'll see it go even faster. As far as like what's going to progress and also affect in the structured finance world and for finance in general is ESG, which is environmental and social governance. So really companies really being asked to really look at their footprint, either in environmental, how they handle diversity and their overall governance structure. So it's beyond just the financial metrics now, and more really looking at a number of other variables that are not even quantifiable at this point because the data isn't even out there. But more and more ESG is a big thing at Moody's now, or it's starting to become one, and it's going to be even bigger in the next couple of years, as you'll see some of these large money managers really make that important to their role.
Thank you for that, Jeff G. Did you want to add on?
Yeah, no, I'd if I were to look at the outlook for the next 5 years, I would be optimistic about it, because I can't understate how terrible the last year has been. You might not see it in the stock market, but the way businesses have been shut down, the way it's affected employment around the country and around the world, there's a lot more pain out there than like the stock market would show just on its own. So, but I do believe that there's improvement coming. Obviously, we are in a different stage of all of this, and vaccines and people's handling of the situation will become better. And then with that comes improvement and, interactions. I think that we've been focusing on that with networking, with everything else. They are limited these days. Like I mentioned, I'm in commercial real estate. It's all institutional. So it's, offices and apartments and industrial properties, the larger ones in New York City. And the way people or companies and management look at how they're going to, grow, coming out of the pandemic is going to be huge. I don't know how they're going to make their decisions, but, it's going to be in my opinion, that you're going to have a lot of pent up demand that's going to drive, just business in the next few years as we come out of this, because we've been, this is unlike, 2007 or 9/11, by far. I got to say it for those of you guys who are coming out now or have been out in the last year, I'm sure it's been really tough to try to find the opportunities that you want, to have the networking opportunities that you would need. But change is on its way, and I think there's going to be some, it might not be as it was before, but there's going to be some movement back to normal that will give you guys the opportunity to do all the things that will make your career start better. So, for the next 5 years, that's a pretty good time frame. I'm optimistic that things are going to be better.
So I just want to chime in a little bit on that. In my line of work, I actually 2020 is one of my biggest, most lucrative year ever. Made the most money last year and all of that because of what I do in financing. But one thing that I work a lot with small businesses, anywhere from $5 million to $20 million companies, and I consult them and I do financing for them, and I talk to all the CEOs and CFOs and whatnot. And the ones that are really making changing up their game plan throughout the pandemic are the ones that's going to win. Right now we're like in a storm, or in some kind of under a cloud, and you get to see where the economy is going. You get to see where the demand is going. And I think if you don't look at that and think that you're just going to go to school and find a job like before pandemic or before any of this stuff, it's not the same anymore. The normal is not the same. The new normal is going to be so different, and it is already. So you really got to search deep inside of you and say, hey, what else can I do? Not really, maybe not too much of a change, but how can I tweak who I am and where I want to go? Because you need to be flexible in that. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. You can't just wait around trying to land an interview anymore. It's not the same. So what are looking for now? What are the consumers looking for now? How is the economy different now, especially with the new administration? The COVID this and vaccine that, and now a lot of electrical vehicles, and there's so many things changing. So you got to change also and see yourself. How do you fit in 5 years from now, 4 years from now? You can't do the same thing because it's not the same world. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%. Thank you so much for those insights. And if we don't have any other responses, we can move on to our next topic. Finally, we're going to be discussing what it's like to being Filipino and being in business, really understanding how our intersectionality can really combine with our career roles. So first, we're going to ask, what is it like being Filipino in the business workspace? If I saw you.
Honestly, oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead, Myra.
No, sorry,
honestly, I think, thanks. It's for me, I think it's the same as being Filipino in life in general, to be perfectly honest. I think in some respects, at Rutgers with RAPS, we've all have been very blessed to find an organization and a group with friends and the culture in common, which is great. But I'm for sure we all came from backgrounds where it wasn't just Filipino; it was a mix of other ethnicities. So in the workforce, you're going to come across, maybe no diversity, to be perfectly honest, and in some cases maybe a mix of diversity. And I think you just continue to proceed and become the professional that you are. Stay true to yourself. I think and it's about finding commonalities with other people. In some cases, it might be your culture, it might be your gender, it just might be where you're from, and I think that's great. I'm very fortunate in Ralph Lauren that diversity and inclusion is a very big focus, to the point where there's an initiative, there's a group, and they offer a lot of panel discussions and roundtables, and try and celebrate each month for just all the different cultures. So whether it's Asian History Month or Black History Month, and I think that's a wonderful thing, and one of the reasons why I love the company, and I'm proud to work at the company as much as I do. And I think in doing so, you're able to share your experiences and continue to build that sense of community amongst your friends and your coworkers.
Thank you so much. Jeff, I also saw that you had your mute unmuted.
Yeah, no, I think I have maybe a similar sentiment as Myra. I guess I never really had strong feelings, I guess, being Filipino in the workplace, which isn't a good or bad thing, I guess. You know, I definitely notice, of course, there's not that many Filipinos in just in business in general. But for me, I never took that as a bad or good thing. It was just for more so, you know, Filipinos are relatively rare in society. We're like 1% of the population. And then amongst Filipinos, at least my experience with RAPS, I'd say a smaller portion of Filipinos go into business. So it's not too surprising. But yeah, no, to be honest, I've never really given it too much thought, at least in the context of the workplace.
Are there any aspects of Filipino culture that you think have helped you succeed in your career roles, whether past or current? This is an open question for everyone to think about too.
So Filipinos are so. If you look at the celebrities nowadays, and you know, the Pacquiaos and the Bruno Mars, and you know, there's so many Filipinos out there that's just making a name for themselves and really paving the way for a lot of us Filipinos. So kudos to them and thanks to them. Also, you know, with a new administration right now, there's no tolerance for any prejudice and racism coming from the top down. So I don't know how far down that's going to go, but I definitely am encouraged that that's the way it is. I'll tell you, I've been in North Carolina since 2006. And, you know, it's great. I didn't really think about much about me being a Filipino when I was in Jersey, you know, in New York City. You know, I was in Wall Street and blah, blah, blah. So, but when I got to North Carolina, I was a branch manager for Bank of America. I was with Bank of America for 11 years. You know, I had a title, I was assistant vice president, I was this, da. But then when it came to, I still remember this old gentleman, Caucasian gentleman, I'll just say that. You know, I was telling him about what he can do with his money, blah, 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 and how we can, you know, maximize this and that. And he just looked down at me and say, I'm not sure I want to have this little Mexican handle my money. And I just looked at him in disbelief that he said that. And okay, sir, how would you like to close your account? So basically, long story short, is that I took that as a challenge. That sometimes, although you forget that you do have a color, that you do have a color in a lot of people's minds have been kind of away from the world, and all they know is their white friends and white families and blah, blah, blah. So, but fast forward to now, even though all of my my clients and my business partners, they're all named Bobs and Davids and Johns, and they're all like 6 feet and taller and white and blonde and blue eyes or whatnot. And I'm this, you know, I'm 5'6", 5'7" on a good day, and yeah, they'll come to me for advice. They all come to me with utmost respect now, because I'm the one that's helping them with their businesses, I just closed the one for like $3 million for their business, another this and that and that. So I really took that challenge to say, hey, you might see this Asian whatever, but I have so much to give. And so I just took that as a challenge and went really forward with it. So I challenge you guys, depending on where you're going to go into your career, that take that that fire that your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents, all that prejudice and racism that they went through, and take that and say, hey, there's no reason for me to fail. I'm just gonna go out there and kill it. That's my advice. Just do you, and yeah, be proud that you're Filipino, but don't make that in any way an excuse for you not to be seen and not to succeed in life. Yeah.
100%, really great sentiments. I really think like representation matters, and a lot of people may have implicit bias based on their own experiences. So being able to be at that table and be able to speak up and be able to, show your influence, I think really matters, especially for a lot of us undergrad students. Yep. So with that being said, I think that's a really great segue. We're going to open it up to some audience Q&A. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. We have a lot of great panelists with varying experiences. So feel free to either unmute yourself, type it in the chat. You can also private message me or Ruan, and we will get those questions answered. And also, if we don't have enough time for some questions, panelists, feel free to use the chat option too and be able to respond. But I'll ask the first question because I'm really interested. I feel like for being in business, you need to be, kept up with the news, and you need to be able to understand what the market trends are like and, different industries. What resources have really helped you, specifically, news outlets or varying social medias or different applications? What really helps you the most to keep updated?
Yeah, I think every industry generally has groups that do produce articles and podcasts and other information. So I mean, for me, I do follow a few different sources for commercial real estate. I think I'm not interactive on a Twitter account, but I do find that it's a good news feed for when things are happening in the market, especially depending on who you follow. So, I do use that. LinkedIn's helpful as well too, but I think there's, depending on what industry you're in, like you should be kind of checking, what authorities are in there in terms of news and other type of press.
If anyone else wants to jump on, feel free to, but.
Yeah, I mean, I work in a pretty niche sector of structured finance, but it's actually more broader than people, I guess, expect, because the structured finance is built on basically all the loans and receivables that are part of our daily lives, whether it be cell phones, mortgage, credit cards, student loans, et cetera. So yeah, staying on top of like anything from policy that comes out from the Fed or the government is going to be an impact on that. As Jeff said, each industry has its own weekly rags and alerts that you can subscribe to or get access to that our company provides. But yeah,
I follow Reese.
Reese is one. But yeah, the commercial mortgage alert, asset-backed alerts, they all have very very niche things where you get to keep on top of what the trends are, where people are going, where banks are being ranked in the league tables and in their activity. Yeah, all of that is part of is a necessary part of what we do, because whether it's your next strategy on who you're going to go out and try to grow your business with, or you have a meeting coming up, and you obviously have to be aware of what's going on and don't want to be left in the blind. But yeah, I mean, staying on top of the industry news is critical.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say that Bloomberg and sometimes CNN, But once you find all of these sources that you like, what I've done, my wife and I have done is we set it up with Alexa, so every morning, first thing I do is, hey, Alexa, start my day. And so I have maybe about 5 sources that, Alexa's just telling me all the news, what's happening, what the Fed's doing, and what the new acts are, whether it be the CARES Act or the Secure Act, and who's doing what and what happened in Wall Street yesterday, and da 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 da. So yeah, I would say every single day find out bits and pieces about what's happening. But at the same time, focus on what you got to do. So how do you tweak your path, or your route, or your business model, depending on what's happening in the horizon? Uh, Again, like how is electric vehicles going to change how we commute, or how we buy things? How is this happening? How is that? So once you know what these sources are, I would say hook it up to Alexa, listen to that every morning for about 10 minutes, and then go about your day.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, actually leading into that, there's a question here. Certainly a lot has happened this week. So if you would like to share, what are your thoughts on the current climate of financial markets and the influence of retail investors? How would you advise students who want to participate in investing? I think this question is really interesting because a lot of students, are getting into investing. It's a part of our 401ks, our Roth IRAs, pension funds. So if anyone has anything to respond to that or speak to about, investing in general or what's happening in the markets today.
If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about that a little bit, because it's kind of like my bread and butter and my sweet thing. I want you guys to understand that investment strategies, there's two phases with that. Your accumulation, where you invest money in real estate, you invest money in stocks and bonds and business and all that, and you're trying to accumulate as much money in the bag of money that you have. But then you also have the distribution phase, where you're taking money out, right? Whether it's for vacations or whatnot, or your retirement later on. You guys need to understand how the distribution works, because as you're starting to take money out of it, there's a lot of rules and regulations that you have to understand, especially taxes and qualifications for Medicaid, Medicare, and a whole bunch of stuff. So as you're building up this bag of money in stocks and bonds and anything that you want, also understand how it works when you're taking money out. So when I was younger, like you guys, all I cared about is how to make my bag of money more and more and more. Should I buy this stock, that stock? Should I invest in real estate? Da, da, da. But I didn't understand how money works as I was getting the distribution out. So that's one thing I want to say. And if you guys need help with that, that's what I do. The other thing is, don't be like the rabbit. Be the turtle also. You need to understand how things are, how fundamentals are, and don't just jump into everything like the Bitcoins and everything until you have your fundamentals and your foundations set. That's my 2 cents on this, and I'd love to expand more if you guys have questions about that. I've been in Wall Street. I've done commercial real estate, regular real estate, any kind of investments. That's what I do. But I also want to make sure people understand how it works when you start to take money out, and so you understand the going up the mountain and the coming down the mountain kind of deal. All right, I don't like talking too much, but I can talk forever. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Oh, sorry, I thought someone muted. But there's also another question here that says, what makes a successful intern hire? I guess this is going towards, us being undergraduate students looking for internships and full-time opportunities. In your eyes, what are those qualities that make a successful intern or hire?
Going through this now, as I've helped build a team right now, I 9 people that report to me, and 3 of them are new. And I think the thing that sticks out to me, things that have done well, in some cases that haven't, but what sticks out to me as someone who does well is someone who is a sponge for the information, who really absorbs, as much as they can, and seeks out, has a natural curiosity, but also has natural curiosity and is proactive to learn, and not as someone that would just kind of wait to be guided and wait to be told, and asked me to do 9 things and I did those 9 things. That isn't enough. What sticks out the more is when you're able to take the information that you learn as you're early in your career, apply that and try new things, and kind of think outside the box, and really don't even just attach yourself to just one person, right? You want to, go to lots of different people, and you don't ever want to be like one particular person. You try to take the best of what you see from different people, and then that helps, formulate, who you are. It's the easiest way to kind of be the best of you. And that was one of the best pieces of, advice that I got early on, which is just take little things of what you like from people, lots of different people, and have that form, who you are and your style, and that'll help you out. You're not trying to be someone, one particular person. Yeah.
I love it when the interns are super passionate, show a great deal of enthusiasm, and you can tell the ones that truly are genuine in that sentiment. I think it's extremely important to ask the questions. So like Sam was saying, be a sponge, but also be proactive about it. Have that curiosity, ask the questions, make the connections. If something doesn't make sense to you, do not be afraid to ask, because that's exactly the reason why you're there. So when I've had interns where they've been excited and they've been able to make the connections of, oh, well, I just learned something in class, or I did a project that seems super, seems really familiar with that. How can I bridge that? I think that's great. It's a learning opportunity for both the company and the student themselves. I've had interns where they've done analysis and projects for us that we still have saved and pull out every now and then just as a reference, because it was a different perspective and a fresh new set of eyes. And I think that's another piece that's actually a vital part of, as an intern, bringing that new perspective. That's when I'm hiring someone, not just as an intern, but even just as an associate and a person, the company shouldn't be looking for more of the same. You want someone who's qualified, but at the same time, the idea is you want to build your bench. So that's gonna come from different points of view and different personalities, and just new and exciting ideas.
Yeah, I'd say there's 2 specific traits I look for in a great hire, in terms of like a new hire or an intern. They're both, I think, similar to what Sam and Myra have touched on. But one is someone who hustles, and 2 is someone who just has a great attitude. I know it sounds super cliche, but once you go into the workforce, you'll be surprised at how many people only have one of those traits or have none of those traits. If they're smart and or have strong technical skills, that's a great bonus. But at least me personally, like someone who hustles, and when I say hustle, what I mean by that is, obviously works hard, is very reactive when needed, someone who's very flexible. And then of course, having a great attitude, that's somewhat self-explanatory. But at least me personally, like if you have those 2 traits, like I can teach you some technical skills during your time. You can learn about the business. But again, at least me personally, you'd be surprised at how many people get hired and are missing one of those traits, or have neither of those traits, and just got hired because they're smart or have strong technical skills.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's easier when they can explain it in an interview, but then after they get in and it comes to practice, it might be a little bit different. So that's a really great point. Myra, you want to add on?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize what Jeff was saying, because I absolutely have been in a position, and it's I'm sure it happens all the time, where you'll have 2 candidates and there might be someone who is slightly more qualified than the other, but the other one will win because they just possess those other qualities. Just it seems like a better work ethic, or just a stronger sense to drive to succeed. So you'll hear it often in terms of when we actually do a regroup on interviews. It's I can teach the technical piece. The other personality and quality traits you cannot.
Right. I'd like to add to that. Every time I hire someone, I'm very impressed with the statements like, "Hey, I've been thinking about your work," and they'll tell me this. I've been thinking about the work, or I've been thinking about the project, and can we perhaps try this or try that, or maybe they'll go ahead and start something and say, "Hey, I've done this and this and this because I think it might help you out." So as a newcomer into the workspace, I think you guys should start thinking about how it is to be in your future boss's shoes, and how can you make their life easier. So definitely the right attitude is number one, and then number two is what can you do already proactively to make their life easier, to make the project even better. What can you add? What kind of value can you add to the team? Not just about you and what you make and blah, blah, blah. It's never about that. Don't think about the money. Don't think about yourself. Think about what kind of value you can add to the table.
I wanted to add just one more thing. Communication is super important. And I know it might just seem obvious, but I've worked with enough people who are such great associates and are great at what they do, but in an interview setting, unfortunately, are not able to articulate or just interview really well. So I think as you continue in your journey, whatever you can do to help improve that skill. Some of you might naturally be great communicators, but just keep in mind that it's something that you will continue to build, and it's something that you can and will improve on. So I think that's just important, because you want to be able to express your knowledge and share it in a way that, like Jay was saying, if you want to be able to contribute and add that value, you want to be able to do so in the work that you actually produce, but also in what you're able to share.
Thank you so much for those answers. Ray also has a question in the chat. Are there professional associations you've joined that have aided you professionally, or even Filipino organizations?
I'll say something there, and I apologize, guys. I'm talking a lot, but so let me tell you what I do. I'm the North Carolina chairperson for NAFA, which is National Federation of Filipino-Americans all over the country. I'm that. I'm also the president of the Phil-Am Association for North Carolina. I'm everywhere in New Jersey, New York. emceed things, hosted things. So you just pick what suits you or what you're interested in and go after it, and meet so many people. It doesn't matter how old they are, or if you think they're too rich or whatever it is. Don't even go for the easy ones. Just go and talk to everyone. Be there. Be volunteer. I don't know. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I think that's one of a lot of notable parts of your bio is that you are still involved in these organizations, and obviously you guys are still involved with RAPS now, being able to volunteer your time. But if anybody has, I'll give a couple of seconds if anybody else wants to add.
Sorry, what was the question? Was it what organizations have we been involved in?
Yeah,
since
so like
graduating?
professional organizations, yeah, or Filipino organizations.
Yeah, I'd say I haven't been too heavily involved in this organization until recently. It's called Jumpstart Advisory Group. Basically, I highly recommend everybody getting involved with this group. They are a group that helps minority and female professionals in terms of getting into business school like for an MBA, as well as for just different job opportunities. I guess the best way to explain it, it's kind of a middleman group between like Fortune 500 companies, tech companies, and business schools, and helping those organizations get minority candidates. I've been using them over the past year to help me get into business school, but they also periodically email us for like very exclusive job opportunities at like consulting firms like McKinsey. So I'll drop a link in the Zoom chat, but highly recommend joining it, getting involved, participating in those events.
Really awesome. Yeah. We're going to move on with our words of wisdom, but I know there's a question for you, Mara, if you want to answer Gianna too. But moving on with our words of wisdom, really just wanting to share with the audience, what are some of the things that have helped you so far. Question, are there any words or advice or anything else we should know about going forward in our academic and professional careers? Or if you want to think about also like what are the things that that we can do differently as we step towards our futures as well.
I'll talk again. Sorry.
Go for it, yeah.
I would say don't just be a bookworm. Knowledge, book knowledge and technical knowledge can be learned. Be out there, take initiatives. I know it's hard with the pandemic, but there's so many social stuff that social media stuff you can do just here right now. Volunteering this on this or getting on these kind of webinars and whatnot. Get out there. Just don't learn from books. Learn from experience. Learn from people. Talk to entrepreneurs. If you guys are really serious about business, talk to entrepreneurs. As you know, most of the big billionaires did not finish college. Okay, I'm not saying, don't get the good grades for your parents. Get the good grades, but it's not all about the books. Okay, it's about actual talking to people, and do not waste your time on. And I hate. Sorry in advance. Don't waste your time on Candy Crush and stuff. All those games on the phone. Get on YouTube, find out how things work, find out how stories of Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, and find out how they did things and what kind of personal and characteristics, attributes they had, and what kind of disciplines they've had in themselves to be who they are. Maybe you could find a way to relate to that. But everyone has 24 hours in a day, okay? It really depends on what you do in those 24 hours that's going to reap you the right fruit that you want. Okay, there's so much knowledge out there. It's just up to you to actually grab the right knowledge. That's what I got to say.
Yeah, I'd add on to that too. I mean, definitely be out there. The hardest part about starting out is that you don't know what you don't know. So it's all about exposure. It's all about putting yourself in the situations to learn or be in front of the people that are applicable to your future. I'd probably try to be very targeted in your approach. Like if you're gonna, approach people, as much as you can, if you've got some lead time to try to research what they do. People like knowing that you prepared, that you did the research to talk to them about their industry, because then, when you're young and you meet someone with more experience, they're generally open to talking about themselves, talking about their own business. So what you want to do is to try to, make them comfortable to open up to you. And, that even if they did most of the talking, they'll remember you for being a good person to talk to. So, it's all of that. So, exposure and, reading situations, that's another thing. You're going to deal with a lot of different people. So, don't assume that everyone's like you. Try to observe them and read how they behave so that you can, I mean, you're going to have to find common ground with people that maybe you don't like, but you're still going to have to deal with them in a professional sense. So try to find that common ground in what they do and you do, that, you know, common things that you guys like together, that you can have enough respect to accomplish goals. So I don't know, just kind of be smart about it as you're continuing to move up and be out there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what, you know, Jay and Jeff said is get out of your comfort zone, challenge yourself, take risks. You know, they say public speaking is something that scares the most, you know, most people, right? It certainly did for me. You know, that's definitely something that you know, go to join Toastmasters or you know, hone that craft. That there is tremendous value in being able to get up in front of a room and be able to speak and do it well and have the confidence to do it and keep working at it. I've so many times been impressed, you know, by just people I didn't know what to expect, and they got up and you know, whether they were younger or older, and how articulate and you know, concise with the way that they can speak in front of a large room is powerful. I mean, you know, everyone saw the inauguration with Amanda Gorman speaking and delivering poetry, right? Anytime you're able to do, you know, deliver in any sort of setting where you're in front of a lot of people. So do things that allow yourself to take those risks, but also be yourself and be genuine in everything that you do. You know, there's a difference between being, you know, a savage and cutthroat and really getting after that next dollar, but also, you know, being genuine about it. And there's a certain way to do that. But yeah, take those risks. The people that take risks, people that challenge those things are the ones that, you know, definitely set themselves apart.
There's a saying I always actually say to my team and to just, you know, my peers, is focus on the work. Honestly, I think you'll find when you enter the workforce, you know, it's the standard. You want to have a good work ethic. You want to do a good job. You want to learn from others, absolutely. But you'll find as you continue on your career, at least for me anyway, there's definitely a lot of politics involved and just a different, you know, a lot of different personalities, and you don't want to get caught up in that. You want to be able to navigate through it. It is part of what, you know, it is a part of life. And a part of whatever your work culture will be. But again, navigate through it, but don't get caught up in it, and always stay true to you, for sure. And I think that's what the others had just said. Find yourself a mentor, whether you do it purposely or it just, you know, happens organically, which is how it was for me. And oftentimes it was actually other women, you know, women who have been in the industry and gave me their words of wisdom, or just people I went to ask for advice. So I think it's important to connect yourself with people who you respect and can trust and learn from. And in time, you'll find that you will start mentoring others as you go along. So I think that's super important as well. I also think definitely don't be afraid to look for those other opportunities. You'll find that if you allow yourself to try some different paths, it will actually build your career and just your professional life a lot more than you would have anticipated, and give you more options down the road.
I know we're close to time. We have 10 minutes, so I'll keep it quick. But on the note of risks, I guess one very specific piece of advice I have is don't be afraid to move around early on in your career. So definitely take this with a grain of salt, because job hopping, you know, used to be taboo, and it can backfire. But I would say, at least me personally, I've gotten a lot of value moving around a lot so far in my career in terms of different companies, just building my network, learning a lot about different businesses. So kind of like what Myra was saying, like always be thinking about your next opportunity. Me personally, I always have this weird mentality where I'm always thinking about what like next opportunity I want to go into next, and then like specific timing. So just have a plan in your career, but also don't be afraid to take those risks, take those opportunities that you may not otherwise have taken.
All right, thank you all so much. Yep, so that's going to be the end of our Words for Wisdom. And with that, this is the conclusion of our business alumni panel. Thank you all for attending. Thank you so much to our panelists again for being so insightful and sharing your stories. Thank you to our service chair, Ruan, for organizing a lot of our logistics for the alumni series. And thank you to Vanessa Palma for really connecting us with the alumni today. And we're going to have the contacts for all the panelists coming out soon, along with the recording. Ruan, if you have any other announcements, feel free to hop on and just talk for a little bit.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys took a lot out of this panel. Me not being a business major, I learned so much about the business field. And I know like in the tech field, I'm going into tech. Moving into business is like a really like common thing. And it's definitely great to hear about what's been happening. So just like as like what's going to be happening, after the panel, I'll be gathering the contact information such as LinkedIn's and contact information for our panelists. If any of you want to reach out to them, just be and yeah, I hope this has helped all of you, anyone here, anyone watching, decide and figure out what to do with their career. We'll be posting the recording of this panel as well. And yeah, if any of you have any other questions, you guys could ask me, or you guys could ask our panelists. You could drop your LinkedIns if you want to connect with each other. But that'll be the end of our panel today.
Yep.
Oh, I cut off. I'm sorry.
You cut off a little bit, but it's all right. And also, if you have any other feedback, if you've been to our other panelists, like our other panel series, feel free to like message the Instagram and give us a lot of feedback on what you want to see next. And thank you so much again. Feel free to drop in your LinkedIn's and stay connected as always. All right, thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, God bless.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.